Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to AMC Mail Bag. This is, of course, the Mail Bag show where we take your questions and nothing but your questions. Now, every day during the week on AMC Mail Talk, or AMC Movie Talk, we take two of your questions. But here, Mailbag on the weekends, all we do is your questions. So, first of all, I'm joined by a couple of other idiots to join in my idiocracy. First of all, starting with this guy, he is the director of the upcoming documentary, The Death of Superman Lives What Happened, Mr. John Schnepp. John, how you doing?
Hey, Idiocracy is one of my favorite films. Yo.
Word.
And also joining us, she's senior editor over at RottenTomatoes.com and one of my favorite people in this business, Miss Gray Drake. Gray, how you doing?
Oh, I'm good. I'm glad to be back. It's been too long.
It has been too long. So let's get started with this guy. The first question today comes to us from a gentleman by the name of Jordan Anderson, who writes, "Hey, MC, your show is legendary." Thank you, Jordan. "I love you all. You guys rock. My question is, what are your top 5 worst movies of all time? Only include A-list movies that have been shown in theaters. My 5 worst movies of all time are Movie 43, The Love Guru, Baby Geniuses 1 and 2, Jack and Jill, and The Last Airbender." Not a bad list, Jordan. What movies are on your list? All right, Gray, since you've been away for so long, let's start with you. What would you say are some of your most despised, hated movies of all time?
When I started thinking about this, I was realizing how recently I had a lot of picks. So I picked 5, and these are all kind of more of the recent past. The first is On the Road, starring Kristen Stewart, the adaptation of the Jack Kerouac novel, which I thought was insulting to him. Oh, God. And the other movie is the film that made me wish that my uterus would just fall out of my body. What to Expect When You're Expecting. Wow. Yikes. And then the other one, another movie that is going to make me shake my fist in anger at Gary Marshall when I see him next, is New Year's Eve.
Oh.
Bad movie. Bad movie.
Do I sense a Valentine's Day coming on?
Well, I mean, if I had done what this lovely person had done and cheated by putting Baby Geniuses 1 and 2, I would also have done that. But instead, I'm playing by the rules.
All right.
I agree with Jack and Jill. I think it's one of the worst movies of the recent past for sure. And, another one that occurred to me. Now, I haven't thought of this. I haven't dredged up this scar in a long time. The Matrix Revolutions.
Ouch. That's a painful scar.
Yeah, terrible movie. And I was so disappointed because The Matrix is such a masterpiece, and then it just got progressively worse for all of us. Yep. Those are my 5.
Oof. All right, Schnepp, let's go with you. What kind of films do you have on your list?
Well, first, I just want to point out that Jordan did cheat on his own rules. He added Baby Geniuses 1 and 2, so that's 6 movies, Jordan. Math. All right, mine are, let's see, and you know what? I just went with movies that I saw because I never saw Jack and Jill or Last Airbender. I didn't have to, and I avoided them, and I will never see them. So I did see Paranormal Activity, and I hated it. I was one of the guys at the very end of the movie when everyone else was like screaming and clapping. I yelled out, "Stupid!" I was so angry. It made me I probably was like bright red. I was so angry that I spent money to see that movie. I was literally pissed off. Tideland, Terry Gilliam's Tideland, another film that I was so disappointed in because I loved his films up until that point.
Yeah, I remember that one.
That it was one of the most crushing blows to me, like to see someone who I love their artistic vision to just kind of like hobble in and tell a horrible story, and then since haven't really liked his film since then. So I'm holding out. I'm hoping this new film, the Theorem film, is amazing. So it was super disappointing. Birdemic. I saw the movie at Cinefamily because everyone's like, it's like The Room. It's like a bad, good movie.
Yes.
It just simply sucks.
Yes.
It's simply,
right.
It's not funny. It's grating and horrible and dumb. And it's not like The Room, which is a horrible film that you can make fun of because it's stupid and embarrassing for all the right reasons that make a good, bad movie. Birdemic is simply just an inane, foolish film made by children. So
may
that
I
falls into
say,
that. Yeah.
I think one of the reasons Birdemic is so bad is that it is very poorly produced and the audio on it is unlistenable, whereas The Room is actually a professionally produced piece that is a total joke, but at least is tolerable aesthetically and technically, whereas Birdemic is not, so I'm with you.
I agree 100%. The bird screams were so loud. I was like, what? It's just like piercing weirdness. And like now everyone's like, it was supposed to be funny. It's like, no, you just are it's stupid and couldn't do your job right. That's all. Fantastic Four. Hated it so much that I turned it off. I never even saw the ending. For me, the Fantastic Four is my favorite comic book characters, or the first characters I read after graduating from Monster Comics. And to see that perverted and destroyed into some kind of rom-com, embarrassing, makes me want to puke, and the second one as well. So, I'm going to cheat and add Fantastic Four 1 and 2, Jordan. I got 6 movies, son. And the number one film for me, Batman and Robin. Joel Schumacher, I'm sorry, I know you've apologized a million times. You're going to have to continue apologizing into the grave, son. It's over. That was one of the worst films. The way to destroy a franchise, the way to destroy anybody who read Dark Knight in like the late 80s, just piss on him. That's what you did.
It was so bad. Remember, a lot of people forget this. That movie didn't just destroy a franchise. It destroyed a genre.
Yeah.
Like comic book movies after Batman and Robin were done. They were finished for years. Until, Bryan Singer and X-Men came along and resuscitated everything. But it took a long time to rejuvenate that.
It helped destroy the Superman Lives project that Tim Burton and Nicolas Cage were working on. They're like, you were associated with that, weren't you? Like, no, I did the earlier ones. Nope, sorry. Everything's flushing. Goodbye. I did write down a possible top 5 for me are the last 5 Eddie Murphy films. Then I was like, nah. He has a couple in there. Like there was like Pluto Nash, Dave, Norbit, Tower Heist, 1,000 Words.
1,000 Words.
But he filled in a Shrek voiceover, so I don't know if that counts. So
I'm going to admit, I didn't mind Tower Heist.
No, Tower Heist was pretty fun. I don't think it belongs on a worst movie list, but 1,000 Words makes us forget that Tower Heist was
right.
tight.
Oh yeah,
negating. I was gonna put Mortal Instruments, City of Dumb, or City of Suck. Pick the subtitle. I just saw that and it was so stupid and embarrassing and dumb and boring. I was like, I know I didn't see any of these Twilight movies, so I'm too old to even understand what young adult movies are about. So for me, I was like, I'll check that out because I was waiting for some friends to see Kick-Ass 2, and I was like, I'll just go see Mortal Instruments, see what that's about, and oh my god, seething hatred of stupid. What?
Those movies, the Mortal Instruments movie makes Twilight look like a masterpiece.
Okay. I could only imagine because it was really, really embarrassing. And I would just like to add that though Highlander 2, The Quickening is on many people's most hated films or whatever, I love it. So you should check it out. It's on Netflix.
All right. Well, here are mine. I'm going to start with... You know what I'm going to start with, right?
What?
The Highlander 2. The Highlander 2. The Highlander 1 is legitimately, it's on my top 10 all-time favorite films list. Like, legit on my top 10 all-time favorite films list. Highlander 2 is one of the worst pieces of crap anybody stooped over and just crapped upon the human race. That
we didn't even plan this out. I didn't know he was going to say
No,
Highlander
he didn't.
2.
He didn't know I was going to say this. It was like, let's take everything we knew about the Immortals from Highlander 1 and throw it all out the window.
Flush it. Now they're on a planet called Dryax or whatever the heck it was.
It's like your reward for winning is you get to die. Yay! I mean, we were aliens and oh gosh, and all I have to do to bring Ramirez back is shake my fist to the heavens and yell, Ramirez! And lightning will strike across the sky and Sean Connery will swoop back in oh, so bad. So bad.
It's so much better than Fantastic Four.
All right, so I'm going to cheat as well because I'm only going to give 3. So here's my second one. My second one is in the Batman vein. It's Catwoman.
Catwoman is so bad it's good, John. You misunderstood.
Oh no, it's so bad that it's bad. I mean, it's not only did they take and completely, I'm famous for saying, I don't mind if you make changes to characters, just make sure you keep the core essential elements, to who the character is. They suddenly, Catwoman was some supernatural Egyptian feline goddess, who wasn't even Selena Kyle. It wasn't, that wasn't Catwoman. And it was just so bad. But my number one worst film ever made, that was big scale, big budget, big crap, was Battlefield Earth. That movie, I kid you not, I remember I was living in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada at the time. And I was working with a visual effects company. So we were all kind of excited to see the new sci-fi film. So we went out to watch it. And the theater was pretty much full. It was opening night.
Wow.
And you know how when a movie ends, there's rustling and people are gathering their stuff together and moving out. When this movie ended, nobody moved. And I'm not kidding. I'm not exaggerating this. Like, everybody was caught like a deer in the headlights. And the credits were rolling for a good 30 seconds and nobody had budged. And then all of a sudden you heard one guy sitting somewhere up near the front of the theater, breaking the silence, just yelling out, "What the hell was that?" And the whole theater erupted in laughter. So I know you asked for 5, but I'm giving 3, and my 3 are The Highlander 2, Catwoman, and Battlefield Earth. So those are mine.
Wow.
Hated
You just reminded me of, like, when I was in the theater, Mission to Mars. Remember that weird Brian De Palma movie? It had the same, like, it's a horrible movie. It's not in the top 5, but it's a really bad film. But it had the same kind of, like, inert, awkward silence at the end of the movie. It was like... But I got to say, Battlefield Earth for me is is one of those, like, The Room. It's so much fun to see John Travolta as, like, I have leverage. And it just makes me laugh. It's like a comedy. So
I keep on thinking he's going to break into reggae any second, like some Rastafarian alien overlord. And we forget Forrest Whitaker's in that, too.
I know. And
Academy
he's the one who's always trying
Award
to get
winner,
that
Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah.
Man.
It's all about the gold, and I have leverage over leverage.
All right,
breathe gas.
Let's go on to the second question
have
here.
Breathe gas, John Campia. Breathe gas. Leverage.
And the second question comes to us from Trey Wessel, who writes, "Hello, AMC Movie Talk. I am new to the show and have greatly appreciated your viewpoints on each and every subject. My question is regarding the upcoming Idris Elba film Mandela, Long Walk to Freedom. Ever since The Wire, I've been a massive Idris Elba fan and have continued to follow his career. While I will never understand how he hasn't gotten any high-profile roles, I wonder if this film may garner an Oscar nomination for him. This could hopefully amp his career up in the direction it should have went a long time ago. He seems to have nailed the accent and he has an undeniable presence needed to play Nelson Mandela. Though competition may be stiff, do you believe he has a chance at an Oscar nomination?" I'll start this one off. Yeah, I think this is this is an Oscar bait role, right? I mean, playing Nelson Mandela in the type of story that he has, this is a movie that needs to be told 100 times. This is a story this is a movie that should have like 8 different iterations because it's just that important of a story to us as a human race. But Idris Elba, you're right. He's one of these guys who just seems to nail everything he's asked to do and do it well. I even liked him in movies like The Losers, which I actually think is kind of an underrated movie. I really liked him in that. What was that one he just did with Paul Walker not long ago? Paul Walker and the failed Darth Vader, Hayden Christensen. Takers, that's it. Takers was the one. And I thought he was pretty good in that. I mean, you see him in The Office. Good. Yeah, you see him with shows like The Office. You see him as in Thor. You see him in, anything he does, he performs well.
Yeah, I mean, he can do comedy. He can do anything. And I'm surprised, too, that he's not more famous than he is. But a nomination, absolutely. Anybody playing Nelson Mandela and doing a good job is a prime candidate for a nomination.
Well, guys, remember, he's super famous in England. He has his 3rd season of Luther, which if you haven't seen Luther, you're missing out on one of the greatest television shows that's been out for a long time recently. I mean, he was great as Stringer Bell in The Wire, but Luther, he's the lead role. He's the lead character, and it's an incredible series. It's on Netflix, so check it out.
And a lot of people may not know this. They're actually talking about doing a Luther movie now.
I'd love to see it.
There are discussions about that. So, I mean, it'll all come down to how well does he play the role, though. I mean, that's ultimately it, is how good does he do in the role. I got to admit, this is something like we've never seen him do before. Playing Nelson Mandela. This is a different type of character for him. So, I mean, yeah, I'm super excited to see it and see how well he does in it. So, I'm glad he got cast. All right, let's move on to the next question. And the next question comes to us from Lauren Levitt, who writes, "Hi, AMC Movie Talk. Love the show. You recently discussed Alfred in the upcoming Man of Steel sequel, and I was wondering with Jeff Goldblum in the role of Alfred.
That's right.
Alfred in the upcoming Man of Steel sequel, and I was wondering how much of Batman's supporting cast will appear in the movie. Do you think Alfred is the only possibility, or will we see pop-ups from other famous characters, from Commissioner Gordon and other characters like that? Before I throw it over here to Schnepp to get his answer, let's keep this in mind. We don't know that Alfred is going to be in the next Man of Steel film with Superman and Batman. We don't know that he's going to be there. We're speculating that he is. It makes sense that he would be there, but we don't know that he'll be there. So this is all just purely speculation. That being said, Schnepp, how many other characters from the Batman-specific universe do you think we could see pop up in this Batman-Superman film?
Well, I was online like about 10 minutes ago, and I was on cosmicbooknews.com, and I heard that Matt Damon was going to be Robin. It was like a conjectured, rumor, agreed upon, something or other. I think it was maybe it was cosmicfriends.com. Maybe that's what it was. But anyway, so yeah, Matt Damon is Robin. So Rolling Stone, you should go ahead and put that out now. Alfred, I'm sure he'll be in it. If Batman's in it, Robin's going to be in it. We had our own conjecture talk like a couple weeks ago about like maybe Bruce Wayne is helping rebuild Metropolis. That makes sense, and he's in league with Luthor because Luthor's a businessman. They're both billionaires, and so that kind of could segue in. You probably will meet Alfred. He might be in charge of some stuff. You probably will meet Lucius Fox, a new version of Lucius Fox. Everybody else, I don't know. I think those two are the main ones that you'll end up seeing as part of Bruce Wayne's, clique.
What about you, Gray?
Yeah, he needs his homies around. Like, who else are they going to put in the movie if they don't put Batman's cast of characters? So
right.
I definitely think that those are the top two that make the most sense. We'll probably see some lady interest at some point, though. These chicks always be popping up. So
right.
If Man of Steel is definitely going to have like a bigger Lois Lane element, but Batman's got to get some too. So probably see a little bit of that. And I think though that if unless they're primary characters like ones that we've seen in the Batman universe already, they're probably not going to include them because it's going to get too crowded. These are two huge characters in a huge movie, so they got to keep it on the level.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you just brought up is kind of the reason why I don't know that we're going to see many other, if any other, Batman characters in this, is that we've already got the entire Superman cast there, and how much more can we squeeze in? And let's face it, we're going to want a lot of Batman and Superman time. Alfred, I can see that makes sense. That's a really important thing. Commissioner Gordon, I don't know about that. I mean, really, especially if we're considering and assuming that a lot of this is going to take place in Metropolis.
Yeah, unless they're in Gotham City, why would he be there?
Yeah.
Right.
So I certainly don't expect us to see any of the classical Batman villains there. But a Lucius Fox, an Alfred, I could see those possibilities, but I don't think it's going to go much more beyond that. All right. Our fourth question today comes to us from Michael Campos, who writes, "Hey AMC, my question is about DC Rebound, and do you think they can dominate or stay on the level with Marvel? Let me explain. At the beginning of the year, Justice League was back to square one. Around March, they want Nolan to be the godfather of DCU, but that didn't happen. Actually, that rumor was kind of debunked. That didn't really happen. But anyway. From there, Warner Brothers was in a horrible position, so they put it all on Man of Steel. They got more buzz than Iron Man 3 and had good marketing, and it was a success. Then at Comic-Con, DC won Comic-Con with the Superman vs. Batman announcement because Marvel didn't announce any of their 2016 or 2017 films. And they dominate headlines by saying Disney won't announce anything about Star Wars, and then boom, Ben Affleck is Batman. Your thoughts?
DC is doing a lot of catch up, man. I don't think DC won Comic-Con at all. I thought that was a pretty sad announcement, and I think that it was widely regarded as that. Nobody had anything to say, and DC it's like, well, at least somebody said something.
Oh, I got to disagree with you 1,000%, Gray. To me, that announcement completely 100% with one punch won Comic-Con. I mean, anybody I was hearing talking about after that was nothing but Batman, Superman, Batman, Superman, Batman, Superman. That was it. That's all I heard about till now.
Well, they need something because
Agreed.
they are losing that battle fast.
I'll say this: it was a big announcement, but right after someone said Batman versus Superman, the very next two words were Rocket Raccoon. So you're like, sort of like, that's really weird. Like the tiny character from 20 years ago is like in the same breath as those two characters. So it was a big announcement, but they also, Guardians of the Galaxy, that footage was amazing. I can't wait to see that film.
The footage was good, but I've been saying this for a long time. I think Guardians of the Galaxy is facing a very big uphill battle. When I went home to Canada recently and talking with my family. They all, because I'm the movie guy in the family, so they were talking to me about Batman, Superman.
Right.
And I talked about some of the other stuff, and I mentioned X-Men, and they're familiar with that. And I mentioned Guardians of the Galaxy, and all of my family, who's that? So, I think in our circles, we sometimes confuse what's popular in our circles with understanding what is popular with the movie going on. Because most people still have no clue what you're talking about when you say Rocket Raccoon.
Well, but I'll throw Iron Man into that. Like, nobody knew what Iron Man was until that movie opened.
I think that's a different level. I think most people were aware of Iron Man. I don't think a lot of people knew the story of Iron Man, but I think most people
Guardians is definitely smaller than Iron Man, but it was still a niche character until that movie came out. So,
yeah, I don't think it was that small. I really don't. there was even a big popular pop culture song about Iron Man. I think there were a lot of people
from
who
the
knew about
70s. I am Iron Man.
But I will say
about
this:
Iron Man. It was about a dude fighting with some armor on. So
I said leading up to Iron Man before I saw the first trailer, I was one of these guys who said, you know what, I'm not looking forward to this. This seems like a dumb idea. Iron Man, and I said this a number of times, and I've had to eat my words. But I said Iron Man is nothing but a poor man's Batman. He's a non-superhero dude who just happens to be really rich, uses his money to buy gadgets to fight crime. That sounds like a poor man's Batman to me. And then they announced, Robert Downey Jr. in the role. And then we saw the first epic trailer that they showed at Comic-Con that kind of, set the pace for what Comic-Con would become for the next 5 years. And then I had to eat my words. But so, that does go to what you're saying, Schnepp, that, Iron Man wasn't this huge A-list, completely recognizable character that he is today. And you're right. I think sometimes we need to remember that. But there does seem to be this kind of PR gamesmanship going on. For instance, this week, they announced that James Spader is going to be Ultron in Age of Ultron. Well, that's curious. Why announce that now? They're not going to start shooting this thing for quite a while. It's a long ways away. Traditionally, they don't announce who roles like this are played by this soon and this early. But then again, they did the same thing with Ben Affleck. Now, in the case of Ben Affleck with DC, I think they had to do that. I think if they waited much longer, they risked distraction on an epic scale because everything was just devolving into this huge. Every day there was a false fake rumor about who was going to play Batman and who was going to do this and who was going to do that. And it was just spinning so out of control that I think DC needed to step in and just make the announcement. Plus, Warner Brothers and DC knew there was going to be some negative backlash about it. And so decided very wisely, hey, let's put this out there now and just let everybody get it out of their system. For the while. But I thought it was curious that Marvel decided to come out and announce James Spader as Ultron this early. By the way, I love the casting. I love the casting of James Spader as Ultron. So, am I wrong?
Ultron gets super creepy all of a sudden. Awesome.
Well, and also, it's a little weird to me, like James Spader as Ultron. Obviously, it's not going to be James Spader in person, or like it's going to be a kind of a chubby Ultron. You know what I mean? Or maybe James Spader plays a scientist who helps Tony Stark out, remodify Jarvis, and then henceforth becomes Ultron. Something like he could play a character and then he gets his brain sucked into a weird robot body or something. I don't know, but I like James Spader as an actor, so I'm very happy with it. So.
I mostly was completely underwhelmed at how Comic-Con went down for all these announcements because nobody could get Justice League together, and that smarts. Like, it still hurts me because I'd really like to see it. And so to me, like, after a lackluster Man of Steel that had a lot of people divided, just announcing, Batman versus Superman. It's like, all right. It just seemed not that impressive to me. And that was my perception of it.
I think Batman versus Superman is going to do a lot better than Justice League would have done. And let's face it, this is the movie ever since I read The Dark Knight that you referenced a little while ago, Schnepp, ever since I read that back when I was a late teenager, that's all I've wanted to see. I've been wanted to see for like a good 30 years of my life is Batman versus Superman. That's all I've wanted. And there was even that like little shout out in not I Am Number 4. The what was the Will Smith vampire movie?
Oh, I Am Legend.
Yeah, the I Am Legend.
Batman,
Remember they had the big
Superman,
Batman versus Superman poster in
Right.
Times Square, teasing that. But you know what? The one thing that I completely agree with you on, Gray, is aside from Batman versus Superman, what other significant announcement was there at Comic-Con this year? There's a lot of great footage, a lot of really great footage of stuff that we already knew was coming. But what did we learn that we didn't already know?
Can I just say that Comic-Con had some amazing parties? I got really drunk and enjoyed myself. So, like, honestly, like, it was fun to hear some, like, news. Oh, Batman and Superman, cool. Drink, party, friends, laughter, sleep. It was like, so it was really fun. It was my favorite Comic-Con of, like, the last, like, 6 years. And I didn't even go to any panels because I couldn't get in. Because there was, like, people like that one guy who was like, I sleep out at the panels for 4 days. I'm like, all right, good luck, man. Like,
Nope, because you got to go somewhere to drink. You can't drink out on the street in San Diego, so forget about it.
You got to pick. So,
all right, let's go on to the fifth question of the day.
Wait, we didn't answer his question about Nolan.
Oh, what was his question about Nolan?
He was getting all sweaty about like Nolan taking over the DC universe, and then
that's for later, isn't it?
Yeah, that's another question.
Oh, okay. I thought his question was talking about like.
No, you're thinking about another question for another show that I sent you earlier.
No, it's the same question. He's like, so let me explain. At the beginning of the year, Nolan was to be the godfather of the universe, but it didn't work out. I guess he wasn't. I guess he's just saying he wasn't saying that. So, I guess you can edit that part out of me going.
All right, let's go to the next one. The next one comes to us from a guy. I'm going to go out on a limb and guess this is a pseudonym. Undercasket writes. So I just read that in the Reeve Superman, Christopher Reeve made $250,000 for the role. But then I read further, and Marlon Brando made $16 million. I know he's a more well-known actor, arguably one of the greatest actors in history, but this just didn't seem fair to me. Is this sort of thing common? Gray, shed your wisdom on this.
That's such a precious word to use when you're talking about Hollywood. I love it. Fair. No, it's not fair. And guess what? Marlon Brando is a super huge star. And at the end of the day in Hollywood, all that matters is who's representing you, because those are the people that get you money and get you paid. And so Christopher Reeve didn't really have a leg to stand on at that point, whereas Marlon Brando's like, listen, I'm that naked dude from that movie that you watched and felt guilty about afterwards. Oh, yeah, and have you heard of a little thing called Apocalypse Now? I thought so. Give me my $16 million, and I'll be his father. Sure. Sounds good.
Schnepp?
Well, I mean, you got to look at it like this. I mean, movies are sold, especially not in America, but all over the world based on name value. So these films that we now see just pop up straight on DVD or like, oh, I never heard of that movie. It's like because there was nobody in it to help sell it to generate people to go see it. So that's existed for many years as the star system. And that existed back in the 70s. And that's why an unknown soap opera actor named Christopher Reeve was like given back in 1977 $250,000 is like whatever, like $3 million now. Still a lot of money. And Brando, was a big name actor, was at that point he was given $2 million, but then a chunk of back end, so that's why it became $16 million. Just like Robert Downey Jr.
stuff.
Made $75 million on Avengers. $75 million on Avengers. And Chris Hemsworth made $4 million. So it's like, or maybe he made 5 or 6. I don't know. But ultimately it's like that's just how it is. So yeah, it's not fair, but fair is definitely a gray. You're right. Fair, it is not a word that's used in Hollywood. Doesn't exist.
And I think that the era of the celebrity name making the movie a drawable movie is gone. I think there's this straight to DVD movie that I stumbled across just like a few weeks ago that stars Bruce Willis, Henry Cavill, and Catherine Zeta-Jones. And Henry Cavill plays Bruce Willis's son, and it's like this action espionage. Henry Cavill finds out that his parents have been like international spies the whole time in his life, and
saw the trailer for that. Yeah.
And it just looked awful. In every single way, it looked completely terrible. So,
what does that sound?
Names don't draw. There's this wonderful music playing.
What is that?
Sorry, that's my phone on my computer ringing.
Oh, okay.
We're just gonna have to deal with it. It'll stop in a minute because I can't turn it off right now. So I don't think, I mean, obviously you got Bruce Willis, Henry Cavill, blah, blah, blah. That should be there, but it's not. This goes back to an old argument I have with people a lot regarding things. Like, some people come to me, and I remember this whole thing when Robert Downey Jr. was holding out for Avengers 2. And, there are rumors going around that guys like Chris Hemsworth may hold out as well because, he only got $4 million when, Robert Downey Jr. got $50 million or $60 million or whatever. And I said, wait a minute, are you really going to tell me you're crying for a guy who got a paycheck for $4 million for 5 months' work?
I know.
Like, are you really telling me that? This guy who nobody knew other than, wait a minute, the dude who played Captain Kirk's father for 5 minutes in Star Trek, the guy who now has a legit career because Marvel and Disney gave him a job? You're going to cry to me that guy got $4 million? And you're talking about fairness. I've always felt there is a real disproportionate unbalance in the world of Hollywood A-list stars when it comes to movies, because guess what? The writers of that film were more responsible for how good Avengers was than Chris Hemsworth was. Don't get me wrong. I like Chris Hemsworth very much. I like him a lot. I saw Thor in theaters 8 times. I love the dude as Thor.
Wow.
But $4 million and crying that it's not fair? I mean, that's also the same reason I got so mad at Robert Downey Jr. when he was holding out for Avengers 2. It's like, wait a minute, you were literally laying in a gutter somewhere. Your career was over. Nobody was going to touch you with a 100-foot pole, and then people had to fight to get you that Ironman job. Right. And the studio decided, okay, we're going to take a chance on this guy who's already busted out twice, and we're going to give him a chance. They saved your career, and then you're going to hold out on them? After you've already cashed in a check for $50, $60, $70 million, you're going to hold out on them? And I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, that really hurt my fandom of Robert Downey Jr. a bit. I'm still a Robert Downey Jr. fan, but that hurt me a bit. As a fan, it's like, come on, this is ridiculous. I think we are so enamored with celebrity that, I like Christian Bale's Batman. Therefore, he should get $150 million. I don't know. We seem to get really irrational when it comes to this type of stuff. So, considering at the time, as Schnepp was pointing out, $250,000 in that time was actually the equivalent of a couple $1,000,000. A dude who was like a soap opera actor.
Right.
I think he did okay. Not compared to Brando, but if we're going to start comparing it, then none of these actors should make 1/10 of what a brain surgeon does who saves people's lives. So let's not get into the comparison game because that's a game Hollywood will lose every time.
I'm sorry. Robert Downey Jr.'s performance as Iron Man is worth more than my neurosurgeon's. Thanks.
All right, let's move on to the last question of the day. And the last question today comes to us from Luis Lopez, who writes, "Hey guys, my name is Luis. You guys are all amazing. My question is, what's up with Matthew Fox in World War Z? Why did he only have like 5 minutes? And it wasn't 5 minutes. It was not 5 minutes. It might have been
10 seconds.
Maybe 30 seconds. Yeah. Have like 5 minutes of screen time. Is it because they have plans for him in future sequels? Was he part of the ending that was cut out? Or was he in there just for the heck of it? Thanks, guys. Keep up the good work. Gray, why did we only see a few seconds of Matthew Fox?"
You know what? He got cut out. He had a bigger part. And what ended up happening was World War Z underwent so many changes because it was so unlike the book in the first place. They basically just made a zombie movie and slapped that title on it anyway. He had a bigger part that was supposed to be him kind of getting cozy with Brad Pitt's movie wife and then just got cut out of it. And so because his story wasn't really told in the first one, you shouldn't expect to see him in any sequels because we don't even know he was in it. I had to sit down and think about whether or not he was in the film, or maybe if you were just crazy, Luis.
Yeah, the version of the script that I read, he was actually on the ship while Brad Pitt was out trying to save the world, and was basically like, I don't know what the right term is besides being a douchebag. He was basically telling Pitt's wife, "You have to basically give me sexual favors, or I'm going to make sure you and your kids get thrown off this boat." That's a wonderful image, Gray.
That's what he's doing.
Or we're going to throw you and your kid. And it was really bad. This is actually one of those examples. Like, sometimes we hear that a movie's going back for reshoots and we think, oh, that's a bad thing. I think with World War Z, from the script version that I read, World War Z turned out to be a much better movie than it was going to originally, because I didn't see the footage. I didn't see the first cut of the film that they drastically changed. Like, for instance, that whole thing about infecting himself with a virus to become invisible to the zombies, not in the first cut of the movie at all. That whole plane crash scene, not in the first cut of the movie at all. They almost started from scratch with this movie. It's crazy. It ended up being a better movie than it would have originally, but but Matthew Fox was one of the, sacrificial lambs laid upon the table and cut out of the entire film. So, I mean, I don't know, but I mean, he didn't die, Schnepp. I mean, could they use him in the future?
I see a documentary, The Death of World War Z, What Happened? Oh. It's like, cut together that footage of Matthew Fox. No, I didn't even know he was in the movie either. And I remember you told me he was in the movie. I was like, no, he wasn't. And you're like, no, all this stuff happened. And I hadn't seen the movie yet. And then I finally saw it, so I knew to look for him. And he's like, literally like in like 3 scenes, like in the background, carrying a gun. I don't think he had any dialogue. If I was Matthew Fox, I would have been like, digitally replace my face. Take my name off the film. You're destroying my career by saying I'm associated with this film because I don't even have a line of dialogue. I think he has one line of dialogue. Goes, here's the helicopter man, watch your step. One line of dialogue. Matthew Fox from Lost, the lead character from Lost. One line of dialogue reduced to a background extra. It's you know what? I would like to see that version of the movie. I know they're going to put out a Blu-ray. Maybe they'll double dip us in like the next 2 or 3 years and be like, here's the ultra R-rated, fake blood added, and strange double ending,
But he got paid.
Yeah, he got paid. So.
He got paid. So at the end of the day...
Listen, it's like being in a Terrence Malick movie, you guys. Those actors never know what movie they're making until they see it on the screen. So you could be in it, you could not. They kind of know that when they sign up for it.
Right. I mean, things happen all the time. Like Amistad had like an extra 40 minutes of the slaves on this island. A friend of mine was like, I'm one of the lead actresses. And then they cut that entire 40 minutes due to some lawsuit. And so she's only in one scene with Jamon Hansu. She's in the background and she's like smiling when he looks at her. It's just like, it's horrible. That happens all the time, though. In scripts, they have like, here's our A story, here's our B story, and here's our C and D threads. And those always get cut out. So if you're in the C and D, like, hey, I'm the lead actor's best friend, you're going to probably get cut. And then if they cut most of your scenes, then they're like, well, we can't really have you in this scene because we cut all the other scenes out. So you're just totally cut out, That's just how it works.
It really is true. I mean, you can have the right script and the director and everything on set and the plans, but the story really does get told in the editing room. I mean, that's where it's all put together, and people who think they have significant starring roles in movies suddenly realize they're a background actor.
Or Back to the Future, Eric Stoltz, the worst. Like 5 weeks of shooting, now you've been replaced. It's like,
yes.
Oh yeah.
Ouch.
That stuff happens all the time. I mean, not of that level, but.
Well, we have run out of time and out of questions. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Become a subscriber to our AMC Movie News YouTube channel. Keep you up to date on everything going on in the world of movie news. And, of course, our daily AMC Movie Talk Show and this very AMC Mail Bag Show. I want to thank, as always, first of all, she is the senior editor over at Rotten Tomatoes, the one and the only, the wonderful Miss Gray Drake. Gray, where can people find you online?
Find me on Twitter at Graydrake, GRAEDRAKE, or you can go to RottenTomatoes.com/videos.
That's embarrassing because on your lower third I have at Popcorn Mafia. I'll have to change that for next time.
Oh my God.
That was, just to be clear though, that was your Twitter handle for a long time.
Yeah, it
All
was.
Right.
You're right.
The one and the only Mr. John Schnepp. Schnepp, where can people find you?
Just at Twitter, John Schnepp, Instagram, John Schnepp. You watch some weird Vines. You can go to Vine. That's where you can find me. So.
And you can find me on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, whatever, just at John Campia. Thanks a lot for joining us, folks. Until next time, my name's John Campia for AMC Movie News. And until then, bye-bye.